Your Honor, what my client's wife did while he was fighting for his life will shock this court.
I never thought the worst betrayal of my life would come when I was at my weakest. But sometimes the people closest to you wait for exactly that moment to strike. My name is Thomas, and this is the story of how my wife of 12 years decided to destroy our marriage while I was fighting for my life, and how the court ultimately made her pay for what she'd done. It started 3 years ago when I was diagnosed with a rare autoimmune condition that attacked my nervous system. The doctors called it Guillain-Barré syndrome, a condition where your own immune system turns against your nerves, leaving you progressively weaker until you can barely move. I remember the day I got the diagnosis. I was sitting in Dr. Martinez's office with my wife, Lauren, holding her hand as he explained that I'd need months of intensive treatment. Plasma exchange, immunoglobulin therapy, physical rehabilitation. The whole process would take at least 8 months, maybe longer. Lauren squeezed my hand and looked me in the eyes. "We'll get through this together," she said. "Whatever it takes." I believed her. God help me, I believed every word. The first month was the hardest. I went from being a man who ran 5 miles every morning to someone who needed help getting out of bed. Lauren seemed supportive at first. She'd drive me to appointments, help me with basic tasks, even took time off work to care for me. But something started changing around week 6. Became distant, impatient. When I'd ask for help reaching something or needed assistance in the shower, she'd sigh heavily before helping. The warm, caring woman I married was slowly being replaced by someone cold and resentful. "This isn't what I signed up for," she muttered one evening while helping me to the bathroom. She thought I couldn't hear her, but I did. Every word cut deeper than the physical pain I was already enduring. By month 3, Lauren was spending more and more time away from home. She claimed she needed to work extra hours to cover my lost income, which made sense. Except our savings account showed she wasn't depositing any extra paychecks. I started noticing other things too. She'd take phone calls in another room, speaking in hushed tones. When I asked who was calling, she'd dismiss it as work or family, but I knew Lauren's family. They weren't the type to call every day. Then came the day that changed everything. I was having a particularly bad morning. My hands were shaking so badly I couldn't even hold a coffee cup. Lauren was getting ready for work, applying her makeup in the bathroom mirror. I managed to shuffle to the doorway and asked if she could help me with breakfast before she left. She whirled around, her face twisted with anger I'd never seen before. "I can't do this anymore, Thomas. I can't." Before I could respond, she pushed past me and grabbed an envelope from her nightstand drawer. My heart sank as she handed it to me. I knew what it was before I even opened it. Divorce papers. "You're serving me with divorce papers while I'm sick," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "I have to think about my future," she said, not even looking at me. "This isn't a life. You're not the man I married anymore." I stared at those papers, my hands trembling not just from my condition, but from shock. "Lauren, I'm getting better. The treatments are working," Dr. Martinez said. "It's too late, Thomas. I've already filed. My lawyer says with your condition, I'll get the house, half your retirement, and alimony. You can't even work anymore. What kind of future could you provide?" That's when I realized this wasn't a sudden decision. This was calculated. She'd been planning this while I was at my most vulnerable, when I trusted her completely to care for me. But here's what Lauren didn't know. I might have been physically weak, but my mind was sharp as ever, and I had started documenting things. See, about a month before she served those papers, I'd become suspicious of her behavior, so I did something I never thought I'd have to do with my own wife. I hired a private investigator. Detective Ray Thompson was a former police officer who specialized in domestic cases. I contacted him during one of Lauren's long absences and explained my situation. He was reluctant at first. Investigating a sick man's wife felt wrong to him. But when I explained the financial irregularities I'd noticed, he agreed to look into it. "Just give me 2 weeks," he said. "If there's nothing to find, I'll tell you straight up and refund your money." 2 weeks turned into 6 weeks, and what Ray found was worse than I could have imagined. Lauren wasn't just planning to leave me. She was systematically stealing from me while I was bedridden. She'd opened credit cards in my name, taken out a second mortgage on our house, and had been transferring money from our joint accounts into a private account I knew nothing about. But the worst part, she wasn't doing this alone. Ray's surveillance revealed that Lauren had been having an affair with my former business partner, Kevin Walsh. Kevin and I had built a successful consulting firm together, but we dissolved the partnership 2 years earlier due to disagreements about the company's direction. I thought we'd ended things amicably. Turns out Kevin had been harboring resentment and saw my illness as an opportunity for revenge. The photos Ray showed me were devastating. Lauren and Kevin together at restaurants, hotels, looking at houses in other states. In one photo, they were laughing over what appeared to be financial documents documents that I later learned were plans for liquidating my assets and disappearing together. But here's where Lauren made her biggest mistake. She underestimated me. See, while she was planning her escape and draining our accounts, I was quietly working with Ray to build a case. Every transaction was documented. Every secret meeting was photographed. Every lie was recorded. I also did something else that Lauren didn't expect. I got better. My condition, while serious, was treatable. By month 7, I was walking again. By month 8, I was driving. By month 9, I was back to work part-time. Lauren had bet everything on me remaining helpless forever. And she was wrong. When I received the divorce papers, I didn't fight them. Instead, I hired the best family law attorney in the state. A woman named Patricia Hendricks, who had a reputation for destroying cheating spouses in court. Patricia looked over Ray's evidence and smiled. "Thomas, by the time we're done with her, your ex-wife will be paying you alimony." The court date was set for 6 months later. During that time, Lauren continued living in our house, spending my money and planning her new life with Kevin. She was so confident in her strategy that she didn't even bother hiding her affair anymore. What she didn't know was that Patricia and I were using those 6 months to build an airtight case. We documented every fraudulent transaction, every forged signature, every penny she'd stolen while I was sick. We also discovered something else. Kevin had been embezzling from our old business clients, and Lauren had been helping him launder the money through our joint accounts. This wasn't just adultery and theft. This was organized financial fraud. The day of the court hearing finally arrived. I walked into that courtroom feeling stronger than I had in over a year. Lauren sat across the aisle with her attorney, a smug look on her face. She thought this would be simple. Sick husband loses everything to healthy wife. Kevin was there too, sitting in the gallery, probably calculating how much of my money they'd soon be spending together. Judge Harrison called the session to order, and Lauren's attorney presented their case first. They painted me as a chronically ill man who could no longer provide for his wife, arguing that Lauren deserved compensation for the emotional trauma of being married to someone with my condition. "Your Honor," Lauren's lawyer argued, "my client has endured tremendous hardship caring for her ailing husband. She deserves to start fresh with the financial security she needs to rebuild her life." I watched Lauren nod along, playing the role of the suffering wife perfectly. If I didn't know the truth, I might have felt sorry for her myself. Then it was Patricia's turn. "Your Honor, what we have here isn't a case of a devoted wife seeking fair compensation. What we have is a calculated scheme to defraud a sick man while he was fighting for his life." Patricia walked to the evidence table and picked up a thick folder. While my client was bedridden, receiving treatment for a serious medical condition, his wife was systematically stealing from him, committing fraud in his name, and planning to disappear with her lover and his money. The first piece of evidence was the photographs from Ray's surveillance. As the images of Lauren and Kevin together were displayed on the courtroom screen, I watched Lauren's confident expression crumble. "Your Honor, these photos show Mrs. Thomas with Kevin Walsh, my client's former business partner, during the period when she claimed to be caring for her sick husband." But Patricia was just getting started. Next came the financial records. Bank statements showing the unauthorized transfers, credit card applications with forged signatures, the secret mortgage Lauren had taken out against our house. Mrs. Thomas didn't just abandon her sick husband emotionally, Your Honor. She robbed him blind while he was too weak to defend himself. I watched as Lauren whispered frantically to her attorney, who was looking increasingly pale with each piece of evidence. This clearly wasn't the case they'd prepared for. But the knockout punch came when Patricia presented evidence of the embezzlement scheme. "Your Honor, we've discovered that Mrs. Thomas was not just having an affair. She was actively participating in a money laundering operation with Kevin Walsh, using my client's accounts to hide stolen funds from their former business clients." Kevin shot up from his seat in the gallery. "That's not true," he shouted. Judge Harrison banged his gavel. "Mr. Walsh, you will remain silent or be removed from my courtroom." Patricia continued, "We have bank records showing that over $200,000 in stolen client funds passed through accounts controlled by Mrs. Thomas. She signed the deposit slips. She made the transfers. She was not an innocent bystander. She was an active participant." The courtroom was dead silent. Even the court reporter had stopped typing, staring at the screen displaying the evidence. Lauren's attorney requested a recess, but Judge Harrison denied it. "I want to hear more of this testimony now." Patricia called Detective Thompson to the stand. Ray methodically walked through his investigation, explaining how he'd uncovered the affair, the theft, and the money laundering scheme. His testimony was calm, professional, and devastating. "In 30 years of investigating domestic cases," Ray concluded, "I've never seen such a systematic effort to destroy someone while they were at their most vulnerable. When it was Lauren's turn to testify, she could barely speak. Her attorney had obviously advised her to take the Fifth Amendment on most questions, but Judge Harrison wasn't having it. "Mrs. Thomas, are you claiming you had no knowledge of the credit cards opened in your husband's name while he was sick?" I might have helped with some paperwork. "And the $250,000 transferred from joint accounts to your private account?" Thomas gave me permission to manage our finances when he was bedridden and on heavy medication. Lauren's story fell apart completely. Every answer contradicted the previous one. Every explanation made her look worse. But the moment that really broke her came when Patricia played a recording that Ray had obtained through legal surveillance. It was Lauren on the phone with Kevin discussing their plans. Lauren's voice filled the courtroom. "Once the divorce goes through, we'll have enough to disappear. Thomas will never recover financially from this. He'll be too sick and too broke to come after us." Kevin's voice responded. "What if he gets better than the doctors expect?" Lauren laughed. Actually laughed, as she said, "Even if he recovers completely, by then we'll be gone and he'll have nothing. He trusted me completely. Stupid man never saw it coming." The sound of that recording. Hearing my wife laugh about destroying me while I was fighting for my life. That's something I'll never forget, but I wasn't the only one affected by it. I looked around the courtroom and saw the jury members' faces. Some were shocked, others disgusted. One older woman had tears in her eyes. Even the bailiff was shaking his head. Judge Harrison's expression had turned from professional neutrality to barely contained anger. When Patricia finished presenting our case, Lauren's attorney made a desperate attempt at damage control. He argued that Lauren had been emotionally compromised by the stress of caring for a sick husband, that her judgment was impaired, that she deserved leniency. Judge Harrison wasn't buying it. "Counselor, your client didn't make a few poor decisions under stress. She orchestrated a systematic campaign to defraud her sick husband while participating in a criminal money laundering scheme. This court finds her behavior not just reprehensible, but potentially criminal." The judge turned to Lauren directly. "Mrs. Thomas, not only will you receive nothing in this divorce, you will be required to return every penny you stole, plus interest and penalties. You will pay your husband's legal fees, his medical expenses not covered by insurance, and punitive damages for emotional distress." But Judge Harrison wasn't finished. "Furthermore, I am forwarding the evidence of your financial crimes to the district attorney's office for potential criminal prosecution. You may have thought your husband's illness made him an easy target, but you were wrong." Lauren broke down completely. She was sobbing so hard she could barely stand. Her attorney was trying to comfort her, but even he seemed disgusted by what had been revealed. Kevin had already fled the courtroom, probably realizing he was next on the prosecutor's list. When the gavel came down, I had won everything. Not just the divorce case, but justice for what had been done to me during the darkest period of my life. Lauren was ordered to pay me over $800,000 in restitution, damages, and fees. The house remained mine. My retirement accounts remained mine, and she would be paying me spousal support for the next 5 years. The exact opposite of what she'd planned, but more than the money, I had something else. Vindication. The court had seen through her lies and recognized the truth about what kind of person would steal from their sick spouse. As I left the courtroom that day, Patricia put her hand on my shoulder. "Thomas, in all my years practicing family law, I've never seen such a clear case of justice being served. She got exactly what she deserved." 3 months later, Lauren was indicted on multiple felony charges related to the embezzlement scheme. She eventually pleaded guilty to avoid a trial and was sentenced to 3 years in prison, followed by 5 years of probation. Kevin received a similar sentence and was forced to sell everything he owned to pay restitution to the clients he'd stolen from. As for me, my health continued to improve. I'm not 100% back to where I was before the illness, but I'm close. I've rebuilt my business stronger than ever. I've got my house, my dignity, and my future back. But most importantly, I learned something about myself during this whole ordeal. When someone you love betrays you at your weakest moment, it doesn't have to break you. It can make you stronger, smarter, more determined than ever. Lauren thought my illness made me vulnerable, and she was right. But she mistook vulnerability for helplessness, and that was her fatal error. She filed for divorce when I was sick, thinking she could take everything and disappear. Instead, the court made her pay for every lie, every theft, every moment of cruelty she showed when I needed her most. Sometimes justice takes time. Sometimes you have to fight for it when you can barely stand. But when it finally comes, when the truth finally emerges and the guilty are held accountable, it's worth everything you went through to get there. I'm stronger now than I was before I got sick. Stronger physically, emotionally, and financially. Lauren thought she was destroying me, but all she did was reveal her true character while I discovered mine. The court didn't just make her pay money. It made her pay the price for who she really was. And that price will follow her for the rest of her life. As for me, I'm building a better future, surrounded by people who proved they could be trusted when it mattered most. Detective Ray became a close friend. Attorney Patricia still sends me updates on similar cases she's handling. My doctors are amazed by my recovery, and every morning when I wake up in the house Lauren thought she was going to steal, in the bed she thought I'd never get out of again, I'm reminded that sometimes the worst thing that happens to you can become the catalyst for the best thing that ever happened to you. She filed for divorce when I was sick. She thought it was the perfect plan. Instead, it was the biggest mistake of her life. And the court made her pay for every single moment of it.